On today's show, why creating a long-term care strategy is important to women. Our part 4 of this week's series on Mother's Day, long-term care series with long-term care expert Maria Sarchi. Hi everyone, I'm Steve Savant, syndicated financial columnist and contributing author to Backroom Technician and Newsletter. Now let's get down to business. Well, welcome to day 4, Maria.
Thanks, Steve.
I really should have a box of Kleenex here. I'm sure a lot of my friends that have known me for a long time say, Steve, you're going so emotive, you're going so feeling-oriented. But really, we're talking about love. We're talking about affection for your mom. We're trying to take care of our mother.
Right.
I mean, you know, if you can't have affection and love for your mother, right? I mean...
Right. I mean, when you look at your producer base, Steve, and you look at the clients that they work with, there have to be mothers that they're dealing with, or they've got clients that have mothers. And so there's an opportunity here to really be making an impact with long-term care planning in a way that nobody's ever done before. And that's what your series is about, making an impact, isn't it?
I'm taking a basic long-term care document from Backroom Technician, a very simple, straightforward seminar, putting it together. Women only at the club. The club we're going to is Women's Golf Day, so it's women only at the golf fair. At lunch, we're popping for lunch.
Yeah.
We're putting out a basic script that has been completely, if I can use the word, slanted towards the women approach. So did Steve write this? No. We took the basics off Backroom Technician and we formatted it so that we could have something that they could see and want to touch and feel. Now, we talk about marketing. We're always looking at campaigns. Is it social media? Is it video? Is it direct mail? Is it direct email? We have all these ideas about marketing. But before we write our first script, before you lay down $1 for your ad campaign, I really exhort you to think about who your audience is. And if you can't think like a woman, and I certainly can't, I want to partner with somebody who can. And this is where you can start to partner with other female advisors. This is where I think there's a huge issue here, because I have advisors that have huge blocks of business. Oh my goodness, 62% of their block is female. But they've been talking to dad so long and never really appealing to the female side of the equation. They need to partner with somebody that can actually do this and help them and partner with them. And I still say that Maria and I might have to do a boot camp strictly on corporate courtship, how to learn how to date our female clients all over again, just so we can understand how to talk. And more importantly, in my part especially, how to listen. Yeah,
you know, we shared a statistic earlier in the week that said 70% of widowed female clients switch their financial advisors once their husband is gone. And often it's because they don't feel a connectivity to their spouse's advisor. So we have an ability here through your show, Steve, to talk about the positive reasons and the empowering reasons to engage with those female clients. They have some of the greatest track record for saving money for retirement in this country. And though they've been caregivers themselves, perhaps when they had children, they've also more than likely have taken care of elderly parents themselves. So they're very aware of what happens. And if we can share with your viewers some insight on how to engage in the discussion, female clients are already thinking about it. They are totally zoned in to later in life care.
We have we have a marketing campaign that we're looking to do, and this would be helpful. Maybe we could draw this up together, Maria. I know all the mechanical issues, but I need the issues that you're bringing up from not only Mother's Day. I think this is way beyond Mother's Day, what we're talking about. We're just doing it as a tribute to mom. I also want to talk in our second half, I want to get to how do we create once we understand the marketing campaign, how do we create an LTC strategy that fits within that campaign? Because we have the goal of the campaign is to get people to show up or to people to hear our story. But the secondary issue is, okay, now that I have them listening, what's my LTC strategy? And I say it's not the same that you were taught in your agency. I think we need to be taught totally different, Maria, the way you're talking.
I agree. And the reason why is because I've seen this newer strategy, if you will, work. I mean, no longer are you looking at long-term care solutions based upon purchasing off of a spreadsheet or the least expensive premium for the highest benefit. I find in my experience that female clients want to be heard. They have their own ideas of what kind of care they'd like to receive, and they've got the cash available to help reposition, leverage, to grow more benefit value for their dollar. And so when you think about a care planning strategy, I agree with you, Steve. I think that targeting female clients, whether you're looking at your local club or through a female group, or even identifying through your own book of business, perhaps 7 to 10 female clients, and having them come together in a room where you can just ask questions about what they think about for later in life care, what is most important to them, the piece of providing the solutions. That's probably the easiest part of all of it. getting the female clients in the room will probably be the easiest part of all of it. I think the most challenging part through a long-term care strategy is staying close to that female buyer, because she is somebody that will do a lot of research. She is somebody that will ask a lot of tough questions. And she is somebody that really wants to be empowered herself, to have her own decisions heard.
Do you think women have an easier time than men visualizing their later in life?
Yes, I do.
How they're going to be?
I do.
Why do you think that is?
Well, in my experience sitting with couples around the table, I often see the male spouse sit back in the chair when this topic comes up, and it's the female spouse that leans in, and she's asking questions more for herself. 9 times out of 10, she's around to take care of her husband, and he still, in some cases, has a feeling of not going to happen to me. But that female who's been a care provider herself, far more open to the discussion.
We come back from the break. We're going to continue our talk about LTC strategy, and part of that is talking about the cost of our care, the available solutions, and customization of the options, because there's a lot of games to be played here, a lot of variables. We'll be right back right after the break. Back in the day, life insurance professionals were called field underwriters. Then, carriers trained their field force in the basics of life insurance underwriting. Today, the insurance industry doesn't educate the agent population as they once did. But now you can have the Informed Risk Guide at your fingertips, so you can illustrate a reasonable rate class for your life insurance prospects. Just request your copy of the Informed Risk Guide at downtobusiness.ashbrokerage.com. It's free from Ash Brokerage, the practice enhancement company. Welcome back to our second segment. Of course, we're talking with the lady of all that is long-term care, Maria Sarchi. Well, you are. I mean, you're one of the top people. Your articles, everything you're talking about, you know this stuff cold. And you're so young to know it. Yes. Maria, I'm looking at how people look at things. I go to a restaurant that my wife and I always buy the same thing because I like it. She goes there all the time and she'll try everything. I'm going to try this week, this time next week. You know, she mixes it up. When I'm coming to talk about long-term care, I'm so used to saying, here are the menu options and benefits. I'm sorry, it must be a male thing. I just give the laundry list of everything possible. But you say that's not the way to introduce it.
It is not the way to introduce it. It is not the way to introduce it.
And remember, you can always depend on Steve Savant for the not part. Whatever I say, don't do that, and you're halfway home. You know?
Well, let's talk about what you described as the menu of options, because in the 1990s and probably through the early 2000s, that is majority of how long-term care solutions were sold. We would show a menu of 5, 10 different carriers, soup to nuts and benefit design, and we'd put this in front of the client and say, here you go, now make your decision.
Right.
And we know today, because of the changing landscape in the long-term care space, with products that are not only standalone long-term care, but products that combine life insurance or annuities, it is imperative that we don't show a menu of different solutions, but that we instead ask questions of the client we're sitting in front of. Key questions such as, why care planning now? Let's find out. Why is it important for the individual to talk about care planning now? What has happened in their life that has brought them to the table of discussion with us? Let's find out what the key benefit drivers are. Ultimately, what are they looking for? What do they hope to achieve in looking at care planning solutions? We need to ask questions about medical background. We need to ask questions about where the premium funding will come from. If we start with those questions, there's no way we're going to show a menu of 10 to 15 different solutions, because now we're customizing and narrowing down, which is what, in my experience, I've seen clients gravitate toward.
Well, let me ask you this. Do you have a first contact questionnaire that you go through that can help us escort us through this process? Because I'm telling you, if you're like me, listening to Maria for the first time in this regard, I'm sitting there on benefit land. I'm just doing this monster menu list of benefits, all the contracts. I have everything up here on the spreadsheets, and I'm ready to divulge and pontificate at will on everything I know. But you're saying no.
Yeah, I start with those 4 questions every time. Why care planning now? What are your key benefit drivers? What is your health history like? And where will the premium funding come from? Because that points me in the right direction for that client. I'm not starting from an analysis paralysis situation where I'm putting 10 different scenarios in front of them, and there's just so much data to look at. If they've not been involved in the process, that data can be very overwhelming. So much so that there's just a stop of the conversation.
Okay,
and you
now-
want to keep the client engaged.
All right, so let's say I've asked you 4 questions, and I have pretty good answers. Sounds like you're being more pastoral than you are advisor there.
I'm trying to be consultative.
Right.
You know, and there's a difference between being consultative and showing a menu of solutions. And I can only share what's worked for me. I can only share what I've seen great success with. And it's not trying to find the cheapest premium. Our long-term care industry has changed. Carriers are no longer out there trying to get this big market share by showing high benefit and low premium dollars. We've evolved as an industry. And as we see this boomer generation continue to grow, they want to be a part of the discussion. They're looking for more interaction as opposed to buy this and sign here.
Well, I noticed that you're having a high degree of success, a lot higher than our normal industry has. So my mind says, hey, listen, let's listen to this new idea. I do my 4 questions. I have that now. I pretty much know where to, I pretty much have some answers here. So now that I have those answered, and I think I've heard it right, I would like to say, okay, let's look at what would fit the client.
Correct.
Okay, so, which seems to be obvious to me, but I'm trying to come back to the place where I'm saying, I'm trying to listen using your 4 questions to really manage long-term care, their expectations, because once they sign, my relationship is not over. And I think this is another area. When you have a claim, come and talk to me, right?
Right. Well, we talked in the last segment about generational impact. And care planning conversations, a great way to bridge to the next generation. A great way, if your audience doesn't already have a connection to the sons or daughters, to make it happen right now. Because when you help mom plan for something that impacts not only mom, but her children and her grandchildren, everybody's grateful when there's a plan in place. Everybody's grateful when there is that care event and you're not throwing your hands up to say, what do we do next? Because you've already prepared for it.
Before we close out the show today, I'm just curious, when you look at all the cases you've seen, and you've seen a lot, is there that much customization per client, or are there some boilerplating that's going on here? Even after the 4 questions, there's some pretty standard answers here.
There are. And so when you look at long-term care solutions, you have standalone products, which pretty much all work the same way. You have some with a little bit of an interesting benefit over the other. But primarily in that solution, you pay your annual premium. And if you have a care event, you tap into your benefit pool to help cover it. And in the hybrid world, which has just gained so much speed these past 5 to 10 years, here you have a solution that either pays in a long-term care event or pays in premature death. So the boilerplate is there, yes, but when you work with a long-term care specialist, you can find that one component that really brings it home for the client.
Thank you so much, Maria. Well, that's all the time we have for today's show. Remember, before moving forward, any of the ideas on the show, always consult your tax advisor, legal counsel, or your broker-dealer compliance officer. Missed an episode? Just go out to downtobusiness.ashbrokerage.com. And remember, you could be wiser as an Ash Brokerage advisor. I'm Steve Savant. We'll see you.